Welcome back to the kitchen, everyone. This is Stefan on the French Cooking Academy, and this week we're honoring the Russian motherland with a chicken recipe, commonly called in France as the chicken cutlet Pozharsky. I don't know if the pronunciation is right. It's a recipe with a lot of history. We're going to be talking about this later, but in terms of practicalities, it is something that is great for many reasons. It is actually the ancestor of the chicken nuggets, except you can do those with chicken, with veal, and even with fish if you want it. You can also vary the flavors. They're very, very versatile. Super easy to make. Food processor, ready. In minutes, it is ready. And then you can serve them for an appetizer, a warm starter. Perfect for kids as well, because you can shape the patties in anything you want. And best of all, you don't need a deep fryer. So, what are we waiting for? Let's go. So it's been quite some time we haven't been talking about the history of a dish, and this is from Russia, Russian origin, name Pojarsky, not French at all. So why was it famous in France? So the story goes that in the 1800s in Russia, there was an inn in the town of Torzhok between St. Petersburg and Moscow that was quite famous for good food. You would stop along the way, etc., etc. And there was a rumor going around that there was something called like the meat cutlets that were very light kind of nibble. Like little patties that you could have, and there was, traces that the prince would say to someone else, to the Tsar, yeah, if you go in between these roads, stop there and get the cutlets, And these were the ancestor of like the chicken nuggets, except that they were made with veal. So you can imagine it was some kind of almost like a drive-in. They would stop like, give me the cutlets, and they would keep on going on with their carriage and stuff. And people have been searching for the recipe, where did it came from? And the funny story here is that, legend has it, that it was a Frenchman, an old, poor Frenchman that stopped in the inn and had no money to pay, and as a payment gave the recipe of these cutlets, which were like processed meat mixed with a bit of milk, a bit of bread, and then butter, and it would like deep fried, and it would resemble, of course, this super addictive type of chicken nugget kind of style. So the recipe went really famous in Russia. It went to the imperial court, and from Russia actually came to France. And in the 1900s, every restaurant was making the Pojarsky cutlets with veal, with chicken, and even with fish. Now it is called cutlets because in the fine dining establishments, they used to take a veal cutlet, you see, with the bone. They will remove the bone, they will create that mix of meat and make the patty and put the bone back to make it look like a cutlet, but except that you will have a totally different experience. So it is quite fascinating to see how it went kind of 360. Again, I don't know if it's true, the old man giving the recipe, but it is quite fun. But for us here, we're going to do the simple version that we can do at home with the food processor. Without the fuss, we're not going to use the bone thing, etc. The easy way, and I'm telling you, it is very straightforward. Let's go. Okay, so let's do this. So you need to know that these cutlets are part of the semi-processed type of food. So compared to a meat patty using a mincer, okay, you're going to have this very coarse meat like a burger. This is totally processed in the food processor. It's got this ultra fine kind of texture. For the ingredients, I'm using a version from Escoffier, chicken breast, butter, cream or milk to soak some bread, salt and pepper to season with, if you want, a hit of nutmeg or something else. We'll talk about it later in the recipe. But that's all you need. You'll find all the ingredients in the video description. For the mise en place, okay, the food preparation, what do you need to do? You're going to cut your chicken in rough cubes, large cubes, cut your butter into cubes, and here I'm using cream because that's what the Escoffier recipe is, but you can use milk instead, or a mix of both. And you take all of your, the white of the bread, and you're just going to soak this just for a few minutes. Take a fork, mix it, and then that's it. We're ready to process the whole lot. So once the bread has soaked, it looks something like this, but if you use a bit too much liquid, you're going to have an excess of liquid. And this is really the number one enemy in that recipe. You don't want to have the bread with too much moisture. So what you can do, you put everything in a sieve like that, and you can try to press. I don't think I've got much, but you can try to press down like this, and make sure you don't have any excess. Your mine is pretty good, okay? So make sure you do this. It's very, very important. So we are all done. I've got everything for my mixture. The bread, I've reused a fork to really mix it and press it down, to break it down in small pieces. I've got the chicken and the butter, and now let's process. Perfect, so let's do this. So I'm taking this view from above so you can see what happened. The first thing you're going to do is take all your pieces of chicken, and put them in the food processor. I'm using the metal blade, okay, and we're going to use the pulse function to pre-process the chicken just a little bit for a few seconds. Perfect, it's all in, putting my lid on, and the pulse is this. So just a few times, not too much. Bread mixture, nothing fancy, all in, and same thing, lid on, a bit of pulse. A bit more, start to have that current mess. That's it. And that's how it looks like. And once you've got this, it is time for the seasoning. So a good grind. It's, I think 2 or 3 pinch of salt on here. You can use white or black pepper. And you can use nutmeg, just a slight grating of nutmeg in there. But it is optional. And this is where I want to talk to you about the difference in seasoning. You can, from here, season this thing with just salt and pepper. You can add, if you want, a pinch of paprika powder. You can even add a little bit of curry powder. You could add a few onions in there, but it has to be processed. So it is now at this stage that you can flavor this with all kinds of things. You could even add parsley if you wanted to. So there's plenty of options. So now let's put the butter in. Okay, so we take the butter. Same thing, there's little cubes everywhere. And we're going to do a final process, just a few seconds. Okay, so this is the final time. I'm going to turn it on. And what we want is just for the butter to be totally dissolved in. So you can check, okay, and you may see there, like traces of butter. So you can afford to do it a little bit more, okay, but not too much. That should do it. And that's it. We're done. We've made the mixture. It is as simple as that. So I'm going to take it out, put it in a bowl. So here we are. This is the mixture. As you can see, it does not look at all like the mix you would have when you make hamburgers. It is totally different. It is very, very thin. It is processed. So what you have to do now is to leave this to rest 15 minutes in the fridge cover. Okay, and then you're going to be able to shape it and then roll it into the breadcrumbs and cook it. Now I've got a batch from yesterday that I'm going to be using, so we can do straight the shaping and cooking, so you can see how it goes. As you can see, I don't have much. It's all in here, what I've got. And we're going to be working with our hands, so clean your hands. And you can always, if you work on your bench, even as Escoffier says, you know, you need a bench like this with a bit of flour. And it is really, really up to you. I'm going to try to take some, so I'm just taking like a spoon of it. Try to put this in there. And really just to get that shape. So I'm just going to fill this, okay, and then unmold it. So once you've got your shape, you can either put this straight into the breadcrumbs, like this, or you can put your plate back in the fridge to let the mix solidify. Because they tend to get very soft very fast, this mixture. And it is very important to keep it stiff so you can work it, you can work it. And especially me talking in the camera in the meantime, it gets hot very fast, but I'm quite impatient. But just a little bit of breadcrumbs like this, and that's it, you know. And the shape can be anything you want, really, it doesn't matter. And here we are. So I've got my little nuggets, let's call them this way, ready to go. You can do different things from here. If you want, you can cook them straight if they are not too soft, okay. If they feel a bit too soft, like they're gonna break or something like that, you can put them in the fridge for 30 minutes or something like that. Or you can even freeze them. And this is a common practice with those. You freeze them like that, and then when they're nice and hard, boom, you put them in the pan. To cook them, this is going to happen, of course, in a frying pan. Escoffier way using clarified butter. Standard home cooking way, you can use a little bit of neutral oil, like a grapeseed oil or sunflower oil, and it will work. So now, let's do this. Let's cook those. Now, to cook the little cutlets, as per Escoffier said, it has to be done with clarified butter. So I've made a very quick clarified butter here. 1 or 2 tablespoons, but to be honest, at home, maybe a bit more. If you use a neutral oil, I think you will be fine. It's moderate heat only, okay? So not really hot, and then we're gonna grab those and put them in. Perfect, so I should have an appropriate amount of heat, I hope, in there. It's not really sizzle, I'm gonna put the heat back up. So the one thing you don't want here is to go fast with this. I've noticed that, I've done a bit of a test. And you can spend, honestly speaking, a good 10 to up to 15 minutes if you got many to cook those on moderate heat. It does take time. So what I will do, I'm going to wait at least like 5 minutes, and you want to make sure you have some colors. Don't try to move them around. You want to make sure you got some nice coloring before turning them over. And you see what I mean? If you had bowls, for instance, it would be very hard to cook the edges. So you want to have a flat surface. It's going to help. I've just turned them. I'm going for another 5 minutes. And that's going to be 10 minutes in, but look at these colors. Oh, you really have to go slow and wait patiently until the color. But it looks nice. I like the kind of the side, you know, you get a little band of still yellowish, nice crust. And the breadcrumbs, let me tell you, they make a difference. I've tried a version without the breadcrumbs. As Kofi was saying, oh, just put flour and stuff. I was like, yeah, you know what, breadcrumbs is better. And I think the breadcrumbs really kind of give another dimension, and it cooks inside the mixture differently. I don't know why, but highly recommended. Do use the breadcrumbs. They're great. The Pozharskys are now ready. This is how they're called commonly in France, just Pojarsky. We don't mention anything. And then you can finally grab them with a pair of tongs, because now they're kind of solid. And it's so strange, the process, it really happens only once they're cooked that they become really kind of solid and hard, and you can, you know, like the nuggets. Quite amazing. So I'm putting this, of course, on a kitchen towel here. I'm gonna soak the excess of grease in there, and then we're gonna try one. All right, all done. We've won the reward. Nothing beats a good opinel to cut this thing. But if you look at it, you know, it's really just like a piece of chicken that you've pan-fried. You put with some breadcrumbs, like a breaded piece of chicken, which it is, but it is different. It is the texture inside, and that changes. So let's cut it in half. Okay, and let's see. You see what I mean? Look. You see the kind of. It's moist and soft. It's really like it's like a fast food nuggets. Let me try. It's really like this. Oh, that's a real thing. It's so easy to eat. And I know you're gonna think, oh, where's the mayonnaise? I'm thinking of like a mayonnaise with a bit of curry, a bit spicy, and you can dip this in a sauce like that. But wow. The texture, you know, it's so soft, it's hard to explain, it's beautiful. Now this is as close as I can get you to that piece of Pozharsky here. And let's talk about sauces briefly. Yes, mayonnaise can work. I've seen people using like parsley sauce, but personally, I would think that you could serve this with a sous vide sauce. Now that would be excellent. And you would have really that fast foody, snackish, yet elegant type of starter, because you would have this thing here with a surprising texture. You will surprise the guest. But the sous vide is the bechamel with onion. Okay, and I've got a video on this. I'll put the link on the video description and on the screen here. And dipping this into the sous vide sauce, I think that would be quite amazing. But that's it for the Pozharsky. But that completes our video on how to make this chicken Pozharsky. Remember, you can make them with veal meat and even with fish. They're very versatile and you can change the flavor. And if you want to surprise someone, this is the perfect recipe. But I'll leave you with this picture on the screen. As always, if you want to follow me, use the Facebook. You can use Instagram and share your pictures, #myFrenchDish. You can also become a patron on our Patreon page. And if you're keen on learning all the techniques of French cooking, we have plenty of courses on our online school. All the details in the video description. I'll see you all next time for another video. Take care all. Bye bye.